Border Patrol chief likes to travel to the global south to exploit women. Random gallows built on the side of a Michigan highway. And JD Vance is responsible for the suffering of millions by cutting Medicaid to California. Stay tuned for more.
That's a thumbnail.
You're a thumbnail.
Welcome back to another episode of Resistance Radio. As always, thank you for tuning in. My name is Dane Snudden, super communist on the show, one of your co-hosts, and I am joined by the Chaos Queen / Autistic Gender Bender to my left here, and our AI program, James GPT, to my right.
I have not been provided with any prompts.
He is not. And you can see we have a little bit of a new layout. We're, routinely trying to better the show for y'all. So it means a lot if you guys can like, subscribe, costs you nothing, but means the world to us. But our first clip that we are going to react to today is actually not Wisconsin-based. Cue soundboard. Whoa, noise.
We have a soundboard, we just don't trust Emma.
Yes, true.
Which is a very valid lack of trust.
But there was a gallows built on the side of a Michigan highway. Now, for those of you that are not aware of what a gallows is, it is what is used to...
It's when you dangle people from something up above for non-kinky reasons.
Don't you love the algorithm?
Sometime in the past week, this noose and gallows showed up here in Chocolate Township. Today, we went out to find the man who built it to ask why.
Do I think it's racist? Probably. I think he believes that the government is screwing him over in some way, and his answer is to hang them, which...
And he's streaming on YouTube, and he's saying I should meet him out at the second turnoff to get on his...
I am Thomas Paganoff, and I'm an agitator. Who's crazy enough to put something like that outside and put their business name right next to it? This fucking guy is, all right?
While on the boat, we talked for over an hour, telling us he's a 45-year-old builder, ex-convict, former barber, avid live streamer, and said the gallows are not meant to be a racial statement, but instead essentially one about inaction from people in power in a world so full of suffering.
There's too many lots of things. There's too much government overspending. We got pedophiles and deviants running the show, and it ain't right, period. It ain't about black and white. It's about we the people being treated fairly and having a say, and them not just running away with the ball and saying, you elected us, you elected us. No, I don't agree with what's going on. A lot of people don't.
That was a clip right
It was certainly
there.
something.
It was one of the clips of all time.
I'm not gonna lie. It looks like a very structurally sound design that this guy made. He obviously put a lot of effort into it and did not put a lot of effort into his response on that interview, because I think we all have more questions than answers after seeing that. When I first sent this in, we were kind of questioning on whether or not it was going to be like...
There's a 20% chance he's based, and there's 80% chance he's ignorant.
Right, yeah. And it turns out he most likely just had like an average American political viewpoint, and like...
If he even had one at all.
He was building the gallows for togetherness, to say that people need to come together and find common ground.
Under the gallows. Is it like a new fucked up mistletoe?
He suddenly makes at least a little bit more sense.
Does he?
We can find a sense of togetherness while we eat the rich.
Okay, that's fair. Can we talk about how, like, putting the sign of your business right next to it? Like, I respect the cojones that requires, however...
Yakuhudas?
If anybody knows what Yakuhudas means, leave it in the comment section.
Actually, regular Joe, whatever the fuck Yakuhudas means, please translate for me in the comments. The putting your business name right next to the thing is a choice.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
appreciate it because it made it easier to find this man so we could learn his ancient wisdom. But yeah, no, whatever, I guess. At least it's not like... Also, interviewing a black guy first to be like, What do you think of this random gallows that just popped up on the side of the road? You're giving that poor man flashbacks.
In a place that is a majority white, too.
Right. And rural. Like, you're literally just putting that man back in, like, the front lines of, like, the 1960s.
Bro. Bottom line is, this encapsulates, I think, kind of the sentiment that many Americans are feeling at this point in time, because he had written about bureaucracy on there. This goes to show what the sentiment of the average American is at this point in time. You know, like, we are all struggling. Gas prices, you know, the war going on, our tax dollars going to something that does not materially benefit us at all. It's frustrating, not only just for us, but for everybody. And so, you know, we all express ourselves in different ways.
The last couple months, like, I was not doing great, but I was okay. And then all of a sudden, like, April,
Yeah.
all of a sudden shit gets so expensive, and I'm ending the month like $30 in the red, no matter how much I scrimp and save,
Yeah.
right? And
That can be changed if you buy us a coffee.
Hint, nudge, nudge.
then I'll only be like $29.66. And come April, all of a sudden, no matter what I do, I just don't have enough to.
Right.
What else happened in April? I forget. That could have possibly caused this financial crisis that we're experiencing.
Yeah, I don't know. Why don't you enlighten the audience?
Well, it can't be a new war because Trump campaigned on no new wars.
And as somebody in Chud Watch on the stream today on Resistance Radio GB on Twitch said,
Check us out. Also give us a like.
it's not a war, it's a conflict.
Oh, right. An excursion.
Yes.
Yeah, so that doesn't count. That doesn't hit the budget box.
But
Maybe
Well-
it's your own personal responsibility that's lacking, actually. Have you looked into yourself and figured out if you're doing anything wrong?
I looked into myself very thoroughly. I even took a bunch of laxatives 72 hours before, and I found absolutely nothing.
Well, I mean,
But the point is that life has gotten a lot harder than it used to be. And everybody's feeling that, unless you're the 1%, which
Right.
everything's going goddamn great. You start suffering, people react emotionally, not logically.
Yeah.
Somebody did this, and that someone needs to suffer for it. And this is why there's so much more violence lately.
Yep.
Not that complicated.
It is a reminder, though, that immigrants and trans people aren't the ones that are making your lives harder. It's the billionaires. So go on.
Yeah, I don't
Gallows
think
guy.
the entire time I've known you, you've ever made my life more difficult.
That is refreshing because that
At
is not
first
the,
you- first
that's
you-
not the consensus opinion, but I appreciate it.
First, you immigrate from Louisiana.
Actually, if you listen to conservatives on Facebook, it's because I immigrated from California.
You're like an octuple immigrant and being trans all over the place.
I know.
I don't meet Emma until Trump's trumping all over the place. So, can this be coincidence?
I'm Nick Fury putting together the Avengers.
Okay, Nick Fury.
Speaking of things that cost our tax dollars but don't benefit us in any fashion, Trump's Ballroom.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to enter into the record a report from the Democratic staff of the Senate Help Committee, which found that the Office of Civil Rights reached a 12-year low last year in protecting students from discrimination. Good morning, Secretary McMahon. We're here to talk about the budget for the Department of Education, so I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about school funding and funding in our schools. Can you tell me how much more or less it costs to give a child free lunch at a public school?
Well, the Department of Education does not control, that's not part of our budget.
I know, but when the USDA does that funding, it's about $4.60 for a school lunch. Do you know about how much the average school teacher makes at a public school per year?
That varies across different states. It can be anywhere from 40-some thousand to 90-some thousand.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. It's about $64,000 on average nationwide. So here's an easy one because it's all over the news. Can you tell us how much Congress is being asked to vote on next week for President Trump's ballroom?
I don't know that answer.
It's $1 billion. And you're a businesswoman, so I'm hoping you can help me do some math here. $4.60 for a school lunch, $1 billion for a ballroom. Can you tell me about how many free school lunches that $1 billion could pay for?
It is my understanding on the ballroom, excuse me, and I've heard the president say this, the taxpayer dollars will not be used to build the ballroom, that they are donations from private enterprise.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll have entered into the record some Republicans, this article from NBC yesterday, some Republicans aren't sold on $1 billion price tag for Trump's Ballroom project in party line GOP bill.
Without objection.
We are voting on $1 billion in taxpayer dollars in addition to those private donations. And so for those $1 billion in taxpayer dollars at $4.60 a lunch, that is 217,391,304 lunches. That's lunch for more than 1 million kids, 1 million Americans for the entire school year. But let's say that we're not going to talk about lunches because that's USDA. We can talk about teachers. At $64,000 a year, do we know how many new teachers we could hire if we sent $1 billion out to the states for reducing class sizes and hiring more teachers?
I'm sure you have that number.
Yes, it is 15,000 more teachers. Or we could pay for the Office of Civil Rights that's being cut in this budget 7 times over. I think you get the point. So here's my real question here. As Secretary of Education, which do you think helps our nation more? Getting free lunch to more than 1 million more kids, 15,000 more teachers, or the ballroom?
I think those are incredibly weird comparisons. I do believe that our teachers should be paid well for what they do. I think teachers are underpaid. I think teachers should also be paid for performance. And I would like to see us have our teachers be compensated. I'd like to also see that there would be teachers who were paid more than administrators in schools. We have more administrators, you know, and they're paid higher salaries than our teachers are. And I think state budgets, all of that, should take all of that into consideration when they're hiring their teachers, because it is state budgets that. Then
I do think it is weird that next week, like you said, it's a weird question, because it's weird that next week we're being asked to vote for $1 billion for a ballroom, while there are cuts to the Department of Education and cuts to education.
What you see here is a classic case of a very good direct question.
By former WWE superstar, Lyndon. No, I'm just kidding.
No. By Greg Casar, who's he's one of those like rising congressional Democrats that I really, really like, because he's really good on the issues, but he's also really good at doing this kind of questioning, which is the kind of questioning that AOC got known for really well.
Yeah. But when AOC does it, it's because she's a woman.
Well, yeah, fair enough. And what McMahon, Education Secretary Linda McMahon, is doing here.
Not related to Vince McMahon, right?
Well, actually, they're married. Fun story.
Oh.
Actually, her only qualification to be Secretary of Education is that she was the wife of the guy who started WWE. I'm not sure where the education.
It's a very educational program.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the education comes into play, but I'm sure it was qualifications somewhere. Maybe she was a teacher for all of 5 minutes. I don't know. But what she's doing here is a clear example of what's called filibustering, which can be done by senators in there, but it can also be done by people that are being interviewed. And it's a classic way of saying, I'm not going to answer your question. I'm just going to talk around it until you run out of time, which is why you'll often see members of Congress interrupting witnesses and saying, reclaiming my time or something of that nature.
Right.
Because they recognize that all the person is doing is just running out the clock. And they're like, no, I would really like to actually have an answer to this question, so I'm going to preserve my time. You're going to shut the fuck up, and you're going to answer the question.
Right.
Which Casar will get to later, but yeah, this is a classic case of you were caught red-handed, and her saying that's a really weird comparison is funny because it's pretty on-ball comparison. Like $1 billion for this ballroom, dead to rights with the article that he introduced, versus also literally saying that it's not taxpayer-funded dollars when we have it on record that it's going to be taxpayer-funded dollars because Trump is a fucking liar and a scammer and a con artist. And then comparing what that $1 billion would do for the rest of the budget. It's really not like when I was in budget class in UWGB, that was one of the things that I did was we were tasked with balancing the federal budget. And I figured out, similarly to what Zoran has done in New York City, how to completely balance the budget without cutting social services at all and still giving everybody universal health care. You love my budget, everybody. But one of the reasons that they get away with that kind of stuff is by doing stuff like this, where it's like, oh yeah, we're going to spend $1 billion on this ballroom. We're going to spend, God knows how much for this war in Iran. We're going to spend X amount of money sending JD Vance to Hungary to campaign for a Hungarian president, because that's what the job of the vice president is in the Constitution.
He went to TPUSA, so.
That too. And all of these things cost money, and Republicans have always been the party of, but what about the deficit?
Right.
And how do you pay for that? And all this other stuff. And centrist Dems, to their not credit, I should say, also go along with that,
right?
Deficit mongering, but no, fuck you. Stop wasting our money on this shit when we could also have free universal health.
Deficit-wise, friendly reminder that universal health care is actually cheaper because we do not have to pay the middlemen, the bloaters, the insurance companies that are running everything up, right? Like, it's cheaper and it is literally better for everybody. Speaking of things that aren't making anybody's lives better, JD Vance is cutting Medicaid to California. He says it's not political. It doesn't have anything to do with who they voted for. Whether or not that's the case, he's responsible for the suffering of millions of Americans by doing this.
Also, the things being bad for you is a reference to both the cutting of Medicaid and JD Vance.
Reason is because the state of California has not taken fraud very seriously, and because of that, we see a lot of the consequences that I just referenced. And again, let me highlight the fact that this really is two separate victims. So there are California taxpayers and American taxpayers who are being defrauded because California isn't taking its program seriously. But also you have people who've been prescribed medications that they don't even need. Sometimes they've had drugs put into their bodies that they don't need because fraudsters have actually encouraged false prescriptions and false administration of medications. So think about this. You're just a person trying to go see a doctor. You assume that your doctor is doing the right thing, but these fraudulent healthcare providers are getting rich by giving people medications they don't even need. It's a defrauding of the American taxpayer, but it's a violation of the trust that should exist between every American and the people who prescribe the medications. That's one thing that we're targeting, and this is why we're taking this action, is because we want California to get serious about this fraud. Today, not aggressively prosecute Medicaid fraud. We are going to turn off the money that goes to these anti-fraud units. And I would say, you may think, obviously, this is a Republican administration. We're all proud Republicans up here. You may think that this is purely a red state or blue state issue. That's actually not true. We see Medicaid fraud issues in Ohio, the state that I used to represent in the United States Senate. We also see Medicaid issues, fraud issues in a state like Maryland, which is obviously a very blue state. But both Ohio and Maryland have worked with us to take this issue seriously. They've worked with the guys behind me. They've worked with our entire team to make sure that they take fraud seriously. Again, this does not have to be a red state or a blue state issue. This is just basic good government. However, states like California, states like Hawaii, states like New York have completely not taken the fraud issue seriously in the Medicaid program. And so for those states that refuse to get serious about fraud, we are going to turn off that anti-fraud money. And if we continue to find problems, we can turn off other resources within their state Medicaid programs as well. Our goal here is not to do that. We don't want to turn off any money. What we want to do is ensure that people are taking fraud seriously. We want to protect Medicaid. We want to protect Medicare. But we can't do that if the states that are administering those programs are allowing those programs to be fleeced by fraudsters.
Nothing really convinces me that it's not a red or blue state issue, like making sure you talk about that 17 times in your press release.
Also, only naming blue states as problems and only naming a single blue state with a red state as good guys.
Yeah, and like you want to talk about how they've only looked into fraud and like the Democrat strongholds, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like Minnesota first and then California. When you are talking about fraud, it is such an abstract concept. If you just say the word fraud, right? Like they are not laying out specifics. He's just saying fraudulent medical providers. That could mean fucking anything.
Also, most of the fraud in Medicaid does come from providers, but cutting off the money to the state isn't going to fix that. It just means that they can't pay out that Medicaid money to the people in California, which means the people in California are getting completely fucked over in this deal, and it doesn't even address the providers at all.
You want to know what's a fraudulent medical provider? Chiropractors. Mm-hmm. They want to come after fucking fraud, dude. They don't have fucking medical degrees. Like... That's fraud. They're quite literally blatantly frauding you on social media, like prescribing different shit to you to make you feel better, and the motherfuckers didn't go to med school. Like, the fraud that they are actually looking at, like, is not the issue. It's the shit that they like because it benefits them. That is the real fraud.
Mm-hmm.
So Dr. Oz, genius that he is, announced
That's a whole nother.
that during this period it will intensify targeted investigations, deploy advanced data analytics, and accelerate the removal of hospice and HHA providers from the Medicare program that are suspected of committing fraud.
Oh my god.
Fucking suspected. Innocent, I mean, there's plenty of fraud, but it comes from the provider's end. Like, all these cuts are going to harm the people that depend on this healthcare and probably not do a damn thing to those committing the fraud. But the second line that I found really, really telling is that J.D. Vance notified all 50 states that if they don't aggressively prosecute Medicare fraud enough, he is going to freeze funding to their Medicaid fraud control units. If you don't aggressively prosecute fraud enough, he is going to remove your ability to prosecute Medicaid fraud and then cut Medicaid funding to your state because you haven't fucking prosecuted the fraud enough. Like, this is literally nothing but cutting healthcare to make people suffer. That's there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That is all it is.
If you listen to the man, he very clearly said that this is good governance.
I see. No, you know what happened? Trump and all of his fucking little crony cucks left to go to China, and JD Vance was all in his feels that he didn't get invited to go.
Peter Thiel's like, quick, I convinced him to go to China. Now I need you to do something that's going to make people depend on their techno-feudalist overlords.
Right,
Yeah, exactly. Also, by the way, one of the things that they're talking about data analytics driven solutions and stuff, it's AI. AI is going to be scraping through that shit. It's not going to know what the fuck it's looking at. You can call this a prophecy if you want to.
Ooh.
Want to bet the clinics that are going to be targeted the most under this, probably? Fuck it, I'll bet both of my nets right now that the majority of clinics that get shut down under this are going to be clinics that only provide gender-affirming care and nothing else. And they're going to say that it's fraud because it's not real care.
We need somebody in the comments to take Emma up on that bet.
So we are going to take another look at a recent take by the subpar Joe.
Green Bay's Gigante douchebag.
I don't know that this court is exactly a right-wing ideological court. I mean, it's just pretty blatant what they had done. But according to the New York Times, the General Assembly, which is currently controlled by Democrats, are looking at lowering the mandatory retirement age for the Supreme Court from 75 to 54, the age of the youngest current justice. Why? Because it forces them all off the court. And then they can pack the court with their own people, not justices, not judges, but politicians in black robes. And of course, they want to do it now because they have control. They want to drop the age, not even like 75 to 55, right? 54, because the youngest justice is 54. And that way they can push all of them out. Does that sound like even-handed and objective? Or does that sound like politicization? They'd claim that we somehow politicized. This was their gambit. They just didn't do it well. They just didn't plan it well. This wasn't us. We didn't tell them to do this. This was a Democrat scheme from the get-go, and it backfired. Now, before Republicans in Virginia take too many victory laps, they should recognize they got lucky. They got lucky. There is no guarantee this would be the decision out of the Supreme Court. If the General Assembly pulls the kind of games they want to play, they won't get it again. So don't rely on just the Supreme Court. That's not an effective strategy.
Somehow regular Joe comes up with consistently worse ideas than my Ass SMR stream where we fart into ribbon mics.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm curious because one thing that really stuck out to me on that was Joe saying that, you know, if the Dems pack the court, which Republicans also do, right? Our fucking Supreme Court is packed because of Trump. that they would not be judges, they would be politicians in black robes. Hey, Joe, how many politicians in the U.S. Senate and House do you think have law degrees? How many judges do you think have law degrees? Because I feel like there's a pretty strong fucking overlap between the amount of judges and the amount of politicians that both went to law school.
Let's talk about activist judges
Yeah.
for a second. Let's talk about how 4 out of the current 6-3 conservative majority on the Supreme Court were appointed by one guy.
Right.
That's not court packing. Also, 2 of those are part of the same ideological movement as Trump in the first place. Right. So, for all intents and purposes, the entire 6 are Trump court. Number 1. Number 2, the Virginia Supreme Court, majority Republican. Up until the last couple of years when we've been killing it, Wisconsin's Supreme Court was also Republican led. Now, here's a fun thing about what happened here in Wisconsin. We had Scott Walker. He was part of the Republican Revolution of 2010 that swept a bunch of Republicans into office around the country and allowed them to gerrymander the fuck out of all of our states to where they guaranteed Republicans would win even if they were in the minority. Case in point, Wisconsin being a constant 50-50 state, and yet we had a 60-30 majority in the legislature for a while. That's Republicans for the last 15 years. When Scott Walker lost his re-election, and also ran for president, by the way, that failed in 2016. Lost his re-election, Tony Evers took over. In the final months between the election in November of the previous year and then the new governor taking office in January of the following year, Scott Walker and the Republicans stripped every single power that they had given him as governor away from the governor, so that way Tony Evers could do jack shit with a Republican majority. In this current redistricting war, 6 Republican states, so far, with more trying it, have successfully redistricted their states to completely block out any hope of Democratic representation and nailing in Republican rule even in states that are pretty close to 50-50. Democrats have done that in 2 states. And they only did it in those 2 states after Republicans started doing it in these 6 states. So no, Joe, fuck you. You're a fucking liar, and you know it, because you know what your side is doing, you know what your people are doing, you know what they're about, because they've been about the same shit for the last 50 years. Stow it.
So I have looked up the statistics while Emma was busy ranting, and it turns out that 1/3 of U.S. congressional members hold degrees in law. Approximately 80-ish% of judges hold degrees in law. But interestingly, 60% of federal judges have backgrounds in corporate law. So I'm willing to give Irregular Joe half a point. I'll give him half a point because let's be brutally honest here. They look a little bit more partisan when they disagree with you, right? We're all human, we all suffer from perception bias. 60% of judges have backgrounds in corporate law. While we're sitting here distracted over, oh, this judge is a radical leftist, or this judge is a radical Trumper. 60% background in corporate law. That's where the real partisanship is in the judiciary.
If you're going to rely on anything, if you are going to consolidate all of your efforts into like making one of the 3 branches of government like you do it to the Supreme Court, because they're the ones that ultimately get to decide what gets done at the end of the day. So, like...
Here's the problem with your analysis a little bit, though. These motherfuckers don't give a fuck about lines. How long did the Supreme Court, not the state Supreme Court, the national Supreme Court, the end-all be-all of all of our shit, apparently. How long did they spend trying to get Trump to release Kilmar Abrigo Garcia, and how long did they just say, fuck you?
Right.
So, and also, this is, again, funny coming from Regular Joe, because the entire Republican project has centered for the last 50 years on taking over the judiciary for exactly this fucking reason.
Right.
Oh, here's another fact I forgot to mention before. None of the 6 states that have redrawn their lines as Republicans had voter input on those redraws.
Yeah.
Both of the Democratic states went to a referendum for their voters to approve.
Right.
So, no, again, Joe, shut the fuck up. You don't know what the fuck you're talking, or you do know what you're talking about, but what you're saying is lies, and you know it. This shit has been the case for 50 years. They targeted the judiciary so that way the judiciary would stand up and overturn shit that they didn't like. None of these fuckers have to be alive to see this shit come through.
No.
They don't care. And that's the problem with Democrats.
They're playing chess, we're playing Connect 4.
Right. We've been talking about Project 2025 since 2024. 2023 at the earliest.
Yeah. They've been working on that since Ronald Reagan.
And fuck Ronald Reagan. But actually, in this case, they've been working on it longer than Ronald Reagan because they've been working on it since the 60s. The center of the right-wing project has been taking over the court systems for the last 50 years so that way they can do stuff like this. And then the rest of it is just, well, now we have the courts that will overturn anything Democrats try to do and let us do whatever the hell we want. So then we can step in with the guy who's just going to violate all the fucking rules and do anything regardless of what it means. Like, oh, you ran out of time for your little military excursion before you had to get congressional approval, so you just canceled it and started it over again under a new name. So it started the clock again. Yeah. That, admittedly, was clever.
That's how you can tell that Trump didn't think of it.
I'm astounded that actually worked.
How are you astounded that worked?
Well, they also have a friendly ogre in the Senate now, John Fetterman.
Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are going to wiggle their fingers and be like, you, Trump, you.
I think one more Chuck Schumer outside doing, like, bland barbecuing, and then Trump will be on his knees begging for forgiveness. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen.
Soon, Chuck Schumer is going to level up and write a concerningly worded letter.
So we talked a little bit about this guy in the top left with the mustache on our live stream on Twitch today when we were doing Chud Watch, and he goes by the name of Chud the Builder. And
I see it now.
He has made his name for himself on the internet, going up to people of color, mind you, and just calling them slurs and basically triggering them. He falls into that kind of like Nelk Boy-esque, like we're gonna trigger you, prank you, it's just a prank, bro, He went up and fucked around to the wrong person and found out and got shot, and the other person also got shot, unfortunately, because, punching Nazis is your right as a red-blooded American.
Responsibility.
Yeah, right. And so he was shot, and so this, apparently, I haven't seen this video, but I know about Chud the Builder, unfortunately. The individual on the right is an ex-partner, and she is going to talk a little bit about what he was like romantically, and I think that we can probably predict some of the stuff that he was into.
Yeah, Emu Doc Holliday was probably into quite a few interesting things.
I'm going to say, Chud the Builder clearly took this breakup really hard.
Yeah. Oh my god.
What's up, y'all? Lily Venus here, pretty bitch with a big dick. It's literally in my bio. I'm only bringing this up because Chud the Builder's cameraman put our conversation on Broadway on YouTube. Now millions of people know what I look like fresh off work. Fucking great. But in the caption it said that black woman who used to smoke mid and get raw dogged by Chud the Builder. Well, he's not lying. I already told y'all we used to smoke. He used to sell me weed. And we did raw dog. A lot. Me, him, and my ex-wife. I am a professional pegger. It is no secret that I perform prostate massages, if you will, for men. I've been doing it for a very long time now. Most of my clientele is white men. We sign NDA agreements. I talk about me pegging all the time, but I never tell you names because discretion is key. Confidentiality is why my client list is so long. But Chud mentioned it first. I think that he said it the way he said it because the white supremacists were probably like, ew, you used to hang out with a black girl, shame on you. So you had to make it sound good. He was a little chubbier then. His cheeks used to clap in such like the cutest way. Now Chud, he doesn't even have a little chubby butt no more, so I probably wouldn't fuck him again. But I'm wondering, did you bring that up because you want to spin the block? Now, when I first fucked him, he was a virgin. Like, if you're gonna say that we fucked, say the whole truth, okay? Now, with that being said, why do I peg? Because it's a hustle and it helps me get through college. I'm still in college, but now I don't have a choice. I had a surgery 3 years ago. The doctor fucked up and chopped my coochie off. You don't believe me? The link is in the fucking bio. I have been this way my whole life. My ex-girlfriends can vouch for me. I am a top. I fuck men and I fuck women with my dick. My dick is bisexual. The pussy is gay. And that's just that on that. I don't know what else y'all want me to say. So I'm not going to give this any more attention. Today is Sunday. Happy Mother's Day. I'm not bringing this into next week. Stop fucking asking me where can you find Chud. He's on Broadway. The same way I found him, you can go find him too. Bye.
She is a national treasure, and we need a statue of her on the mall.
She was a woman of color, and he was a virgin.
Apparently, the most clappable butt cheeks.
A woman of color in the queer community.
I can't stop thinking about the description of his clappable butt cheeks. I just can't. I can't get over that part.
I have not learned about Chud the Builder before today. Everything I've learned about him has been against my will, but it is forever going to be my headcanon that he is the way he is because he misses her that much.
I agree. I mean, and probably misses his clappable butt cheeks.
But his ex just like went on and talked about how he loved to get
Not
pegged.
really an ex, but his dummy mommy.
Yeah.
Who's black and apparently has an actual dick. I thought when she was doing that, she was referencing like a strap-on or something.
Y'all are all aware of Byron Nome and what leaked with that. Like, these motherfuckers are freaks. They get off on the fact that they push a worldview that makes it harder for them to do what they want to do. Like Caleb Heron, who is a phenomenal comedian. He was on the red carpet with an anti-ice pin. Absolutely hilarious. He talks about specifically how, like, as he is a gay man, as him being a gay man, he would have had way better sex when being gay was illegal. Because it would have been way freakier. Like, that's the whole fucking, conservative worldview.
No, they want to make it so when gay sex was illegal, who got busted for it? Was it the rich gay billionaire?
Right, no.
It wasn't.
Right, exactly.
They're going to be able to continue to do whatever the fuck they want because they got enough power and privilege to protect themselves from consequences. But the things that they do freely and openly, they can use as another lever of control to fuck up the working class.
Literally.
Up their clappable butt cheeks. When I'm granted gold like that, what else am I supposed to say?
Speaking of fucking the working class, the National Chief of the Border Patrol, someone that Donald Trump appointed, a guy by the name of Michael Banks, has found himself in a little bit of hot water lately.
Michael Banks, former U.S. Border Patrol chief, is facing allegations of sex tourism during his career, according to 6 current and former agents speaking to the Washington Examiner. Banks reportedly bragged about paying for sex with prostitutes while traveling in Colombia and Thailand over a decade, even inviting colleagues on trips. Investigations were launched twice, including last year, but both ended inconclusively. Sources said his actions, even in countries where prostitution is legal, violated Border Patrol ethics and conflicted with the agency's mission to combat human trafficking.
Let's be perfectly clear. Sex work is work. I'm not going to shame anybody for engaging in that profession. However, let's be brutally honest here. There's a lot of sex work that involves human trafficking, a lot of unscrupulous stuff. The fact that this motherfucker decided that he needed to go to third world countries to take advantage of women there tells me that he's after something more shameful and less kinky.
Maybe he only just wanted to do it because when, inevitably, if he were to engage in that in the U.S. and the sex worker would do a tell-all like we just fucking saw, they can't do that now because they don't speak English. I think that was his logic. And I do agree with James. Sex work is work. I could probably say for all of us on the show that we are pro sex work in the sense that they are opting to do that, right? Mm-hmm. But when it is something like women in the global south, oftentimes which are under the age of consent, and people engage in sex tourism, that is not a good thing. They're being exploited in that sense.
Because let's be honest, did he just go there to just patronize some sex work? No. He went there because he wanted some shit that was going to be probably illegal in most places and probably bad for the sex workers.
It makes you wonder if the fucking Border Patrol chief is doing this, out of country. Like, what are they fucking doing to the people that are detained?
Sex work is known as the world's oldest profession for a reason. Like, you can't get rid of it. It's all you can do is regulate it and make sure that the people involved are consenting, doing acts of their own free will, and are old enough to be able to consent to these things.
AKA qualify as an adult in most places.
Yeah. I'm not sure that the governments of Colombia and Thailand are doing a proper job regulating these. These are countries that are known as sex tourism hotspots for a reason. This is a guy that has been investigated for this for over 10 years.
Oh my fuck.
Over 10 years, and all of a sudden when Kristi Noem gets...
The bird-legged hoe.
When she gets appointed, the investigation instantly gets shut down, and apparently now it just came back to life. This motherfucker likes to take advantage of brown women in his free time, and that's also his job. Are you serious? Like, there's no way you're getting ethical, fair treatment for anybody under a dude like this.
Yep.
Every time you think the Trump administration can't do something worse, they somehow find a way.
There was a lot of heavy topics. Obviously, this episode, a lot of interesting things. We try to keep it original with clips that are, you might not be seeing on your regular everyday news channels. But as always, like we've said before, if you guys have clips that you would like us to react to, reach out, join our Discord. Link is going to be in our link tree. We have a clip upload channel there. And then we are also, for the time being, going to be going live just about every day on Twitch from about 12 to 2 p.m. Central, give or take, depending on what day it is. And we will be doing live news and reacts there, and our new fan favorite segment, Chud Watch. So if you have clips even for that, definitely let us know. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate all the support. As the show grows, we hope to expand a lot of our other mediums. So make sure, like I said in the beginning, you hit that like button, you subscribe. Costs you guys nothing, does wonders for the algorithm, for us, and for the resistance, because you get to see more of us, and I know you all want to do that. So get active, get wise. What the?
And get organized.
Yeah.
Remember, it's the party of traditional family values that tells you that you should go to Thailand and see ladyboys.
That was what I was going to bring up. But then I was like, that's probably a bridge too far. I'm glad you covered it for me.
A dick too far.
Speaking of regular Joe, who was on the pod today, remember, kids,
on the pod,
check both ways before crossing the street, read Das Kapital, fuck Ronald Reagan, and if regular Joe decides to ask you to see your Yakuhudas, call 911.
If regular Joe asks to see your Yakuhudas, take 2 seconds before you call 911 to ask him what a Yakuhuda is.
That's very valuable information.
We need to know.